Good morning, class. My name is Derek Vargas, and I'm going to go over a brief PowerPoint presentation on oral language strategies. Your brief outline for today is a very brief background on oral language development, and then I have it broken down by basic and advanced oral language strategies. I'll follow up with conclusion and then my sources for further reading. And most academic literature shows the close connection between the development of oral language skills and having the gains in reading. They're innately connected. Um, they're also showing that students who have trouble with hearing and listening, they tend to have lower gains in reading. Moving on, you have both conversational language and academic language, and both are quite important for various reasons. Conversational language is the everyday language, family, friends, straightforward and informal, and lots of time uses slang. Academic language is vocabulary, syntax, and other language forms necessary to participate in classroom lessons and various types of academic interactions. Um, Academic achievement in language and fluency, I think there needs to be a close connection to vernacular language and idiom and school language, which will help the student across multiple curriculum, math, science, reading, etc. So oral language skills, you can basically think of them having kind of like a pyramid or three different levels. The lower range is what most people start to learn when they're learning a new language or develop a language, which is repetition, memorization, and formulaic expression. The middle range is verbal attention getters, answering in unison, and talking to self. And lastly, you have the upper range, which is elaboration, anticipatory answers, monitoring self-correcting errors, appeals for mistakes, requests for clarifications, and lastly, role playing. Um, the thing is, the lower scale, it doesn't force further conversations and is more simplistic. The middle range begins to initiate and maintain interactions, while the upper range um, includes a much higher sense of language and communication. But the communication keeps going and going. Next, I'll go over some strategies and games for oral language skills for beginning slash developing. These are some super fun games that I love. The first game is I jump, you jump, we jump. Basically, the teacher says I jump, and then jumps, and then says you jump, they jump, and we jump, we jump. And the important part is that the student repeats the language connected with the action. Obviously, it's going to help them learn language, also have a little bit of fun. The next game is pretty similar. Students are paired up and they just copy each other. You can use pre-written sentences or even have words or sentences on a smart board or a video, and they just copy each other. You can add in facial gestures and body movements to make it even more fun. Um, Next game is kind of similar to the two. Simon Says. The teacher says Simon says, then action, and the student must do the action. To connect the oral language here, have the student repeat what the teacher says. So, Simon says, do jumping jacks. Well, the student has to say, do jumping jacks, and then do the jumping jacks. These games here are more beginning, but a little bit more development. One game I really like is Would You Rather. You basically give two options. Would you rather eat pizza or chicken noodle soup? And the students obviously give their answer. Um, and kind of the same game, but a little more complex, is Four Corners. You ask the question, and then students must go to the correct corner. So if you ask a question, you have to have at least four answers. For additional practice, once the groups go to the corners, ask them why they chose that group, right? So that language develops a little bit more. Next, we have silly rhymes. You can give students a word and then make silly rhymes. I like to do an art thing here where they actually draw the silly rhyme, right? So Ned sleeps in a bed that is a sled. Well, a student would make that rhyme, say it, and then draw it. All right, so these ones here are a little bit on the upper range of beginning development. They do sell story dice, which is dice with pictures. Typically 9 pictures on the die. A student rolls them, and they have to tell stories based on the pictures. Another one, students individually or in groups, they describe a picture or scene shown to the class. You could also make this points based where they get points for as many words as they can use in describing it. If you want to have a little bit more fun around Christmas or Halloween, you can also give them candy. Another more advanced game is the same thing where you show a picture or a scene. However, the students list questions now. And lastly, I love doing charades. A really fun thing to do is take vocab words, or maybe you read a storybook in the beginning of class, and later on you have charades based on that book. All right, and these ones here are more developing. You read a story to the class, and students retell the stories using their own words. Another one, after you read the book, well, now students can they answer open-ended questions about the story and describe the scenery, describe the characters, what the characters want, what's standing in their way. And I love theater, so students can always act out the scenes from the story. Another fun thing to do is do a lesson on expressive language, and then they use expressive language while acting out the scene or scenes from the book. All right, next I'm going to go into some more advanced level oral language skills or games. This is one I absolutely love. Obviously, you give a class on similes, metaphors, and idioms. You do this as an explicit class, however, you have peer-to-peer conversations where students practice these. Students work in groups and make lists of this. You can use cards that must be divided into correct groups, or you can also use a graphic organizer. One thing I like to do with ESOL and ELL students is have them describe idioms in their home language and compare them to idioms in the English language. Next is art time. Students pick an idiom. For example, when pigs fly, draw it. Then students present art to the class and describe both the literal and interpretive meaning of the idiom. As you can see on the left upper hand side, you see a picture of pigs flying. Well, that is the literal meaning, but obviously we use it in a different context. This one is just a lot of fun, kind of get the students up, moving around. Students pick an interviewer. Students produce topics for the interviewees, such as a professional sports player, a famous actor, and 2 students are chosen to be interviewed. The interviewer asks the questions, however, the students must answer together at the same time. You can also make it based on books or topics that you covered in class. In this one, students are given a scene, baking a pie, going to the mall, something simple, or something simple like how to ask for help. Students act out the scene, live improv, or write short scenes, and then students present to the class. For younger students, I like to make this kind of role playing where, they might role play how to ask for help, or role play um, how to talk to a parent when they're having a bad day, something like that. Another fun way is put scenarios in a hat. The teacher pulls them out, and students role play or act out on the spot. This is another fun one to do. So again, we're going to have explicit class as well as peer-to-peer on figurative language such as similes, metaphors, oxymorons, and hyperbole. Then you read and reread Act 2, Scene 2 from Romeo and Juliet. And then you have students use a graphic organizer for figurative language for the scene. Students can make and present PowerPoints on the figurative language or a short scene using figurative language, and then they present to the class. While the students present these short scenes to the class using similes, metaphors, oxymorons, and hyperboles, The rest of the class will fill out graphic organizers covering each of these. Um, you could have them do the scene from Romeo and Juliet or make their own scene, obviously using similes, metaphors, oxymorons, and hyperbole. A couple takeaways here, right? Even higher order language is dependent on the middle and lower level tiers. Those don't just go away just because we're using higher level orders. Mix up all three, right? Um, Also, try to vary both conversational and academic language, right? A lot of students feel more comfortable with conversational language. However, they also need to slowly get used to academic language, right? So use conversational language as a bridge to academic language. Conversational language is very important for that social, cultural, and contextual language. And usually they master that level first. Try connecting the academic language to things inside and outside of the classroom, make it relevant for students. All right, and if you notice, most of these strategies were all games, right? Gamifications makes the learning experiential and connects it to goals as well as increasing student engagement and learning. I think understanding students' cultural background is important. Idioms, for example, are not apparent to all learners. Lastly, multimodality is key, right? Use print, media, video, games, visual, etc. And also get the students moving around, touching things. A lot of these ones you can use with blocks and Play-Dohs and things like that. I'll just leave this up for just a little bit. If you wanted more information on anything I covered today, these are the sources where I got it from. Um, and lastly, if you want to get a hold of me to ask me any questions about I covered today, be sure to shoot me an email and I'll hopefully get you the source or the answers you are looking for.